We have reports that Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency has warned Kebbi State, located in northwestern Nigeria, may soon face flooding due to the rising water levels of the River Niger. The alert follows reports of increased water flow from upstream activities in Niger and Mali. In a statement issued by NIHSA's Director General Mohammed, the agency pointed out the potential risk of flooding in Kebbi as water from the Niger Basin begins to flow into Nigeria. He stated that the situation, informed by data from the Niger Basin Authority in Niamey, Niger Republic, indicates that floodwaters from Niger and Mali are gradually making their way towards Nigeria. And he said the agency has already alerted dam operators of Kainji Dam and Jeba on the River Niger, ensuring that they are prepared for any potential increase in water flow. However, the NIHSA clarified that as of August 22, 2024, the dams have not yet started spilling water from their reservoirs. So they also urge states and communities along the River Niger system to remain vigilant, particularly from the end of August through September, when the risk of flooding is expected to be highest. This is a prior notice that have been given. I don't know how early you think this is. You think it's coming early? Do you think it's not coming early? What do you think about the story?
You call it a prior notice. For me, who are having seen the way things happen in Nigeria, I think it's not just a prior notice. It is to your tent, O Israel. Because, one would want to ask, why do we have bilateral agreements? This is a river system that involves some other countries. One would have thought that the government would have had proper arrangement with these countries, how to control this water and even have channels. This is like what happens when this, the Cameroonians and their dam, an arrangement that has been there for decades. The Nigerian government system fails to do her part. Whenever that river overflows, people in Nigeria suffer. Like, we are having a little discussion off studio. This thing shows that our system is not working. And I bet you, in spite of this prior warning, as you would want to call it, this flood will come and meet the people. The people will suffer for it. Crops will be destroyed. Remember, a system where prices of food has hit all-time high in terms of inflation rate. When this happens again, with the crops that may likely be lost, that probably suggests that next year we will have to grapple with, poor harvest and food coming. We shouldn't be doing this to ourselves over and over again. The government can have a way of channeling this water. These waters can even be channeled for more productive use. I mean, they talk about Kainji Dam and all that. This is the same water you need to generate electricity and irrigation for farming. Kebbi State and some of the states in northern Nigeria, these are regions of the country that some periods of the year they lack water for their farming activity. These waters can be properly channeled, reserved, and be used for agriculture rather than serving as a source of disruption to people. So I think it is not enough to send this one in. Like I said, it's to your tent, O Israel. That is what it may just be at the end of the day, with government doing nothing. They should get to their, fold their sleeves and work. I mean, the government should fold their sleeves and work and ensure that the poor communities along these river edges don't suffer unduly, because it always leads to loss of economic, social life. I mean, even health risks is involved. So it's not enough to always warn the people. See, the place of government is not just to send out warning, it's to mitigate those actions from happening. So I think they can do more to ensure that at the end of the day, we don't have this flood disturbing people that are already traumatized by insecurities and other
increasing
issues.
Prices of food products. Yes, let's hear you, Doctor.
Yeah, I think this is not the first time we'll keep hearing this kind of warnings. I look at the situation to be where people are not ready, or the government's not ready to own to its responsibility. Niger Republic, they have their dams and the water. In fact, whenever, just like now they're giving the warning, whenever there is an excess water high-level water, the impact will be felt by Nigeria. So why? It is a situation where the government fails to do what they are supposed to do. There is a need for them to build dams that will be used to collect these waters. As the water flows, they are channeled into a dam where it will be stored. The impact will be less in terms of inflicting sufferings and destructions on the farming, the farmers, and all of those economic activities. So there is need to build more dams. We've been hearing over time, just like my friend stated, the Cameroon scenario, where the overflow over there will receive the impact. Why is it not happening over there? It's because their systems have been properly arranged, controlled.
What is wrong with arranging and controlling our system? You know, this flooding of a thing,
Yes.
this is not the first time it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
This is something that we experience in Nigeria over and over again. So one would wonder, currently we're experiencing flooding in different states in Nigeria.
Exactly,
in fact, we've already recorded deaths. People are already dying. And then we heard in one state where one of the Secretary for State actually said that the people should see it as their destiny. They should just pack their things and go to higher grounds.
They are helpless.
You understand? So one will ask,
it's to your tent to Israel.
yes, what is wrong with our system? Does it mean that after each administration, with different administrations, we still don't get it right?
Yes, they don't get it right because they know what to do. And the funds to do those infrastructural facilities and all of that are being embezzled. And no incoming administration coming into the system and seeing the reports, recommendations, and all of that should be done. Most of them, they just abandon it. And the funds that are supposed to use in building those infrastructures are being embezzled.
So it's not a case of not having enough funds to handle
There is
this
fund
issue.
to do it. The question is this: the Niger themselves, are they experiencing the kind of flood we're experiencing in Nigeria? Cameroon, are they also experiencing it? No. So the fact is that the system we find ourselves are not really there for the public interest. They are not there to protect the citizens. They leave the citizen to their fate, that whatever they see, they just take it. Whereas in other countries in Africa, they try to protect their people. So now this information has come. Why telling the people what would they do once the flood comes? Those of them who may be lucky, they can carry their clothing and they run away. That's what the government expects. They should just evacuate from wherever they are and let the flood have its way until it is over. So it is something that is disheartening that government is not playing their role.
You know, talking about letting the people evacuate the area and telling them to move to higher grounds, have we ever imagined, or has the government ever imagined that not everybody would have somewhere else to go? Now, some people would have relatives in other states. Some people would have relatives in, some people would have the funds to even move. But some other people might not even have the funds to go anywhere with their families. Because I don't think anybody will get this kind of notice and keep their family. Any man will have this kind of notice and make his family to still be in that area. So how do you think we can come out of this situation from it repeating itself?
Earlier, Dr. Wango used a word that covers everything: systemic failure. We have a system failure. That system failure has been on over the decades. These issues, some of us, studied and discussed it in school. We keep repeating itself. It's a system failure. Now, another thing, of course, aligned to the system failure is the corruption in the system. Like he said, it's not a matter of lack of fund, but we have a situation where people may even be making money out of these things, because one government, the best the government can do is set up an IDP, which is just a short-term measure, and those IDPs are usually not the best of place for people to stay in, because it comes with health risk, so many environmental risks, people staying out of school for as long as the flood last. But guess what? At the end of the day, a particular office or individuals will present a humongous budget that was used to set up the IDP.
Yeah.
So they make money out of it. I mean, the guy who, like he said, there is fund, but what we lack is the political will. How many persons in Nigeria, if you have been following, for example, what happened, or if you follow, for example, what happened during the British last general election, the issues they discussed, and what is happening with the Democrats that just rounded off their national convention issues. How many persons in Nigeria desires political office? Let me say the Kebbi State you are talking about. I want to be governor of Kebbi State, and I pick up documents or do research directly or indirectly, get people to say, okay, can I get a grasp of the issues on ground here on how to solve it? We don't do that. You only get into office and everything appears surprising to you. Even the things the ordinary man in the street is aware of, the governors and the executives seem surprised that such is happening. Like you talked about the secretary to whichever state you said, saying the people, oh, this is your destiny. Come on, what are you talking about? The world we live in today has developed beyond people being held back by natural forces. Yeah, natural forces are there, but society has developed in such a way that we have been able to tame the forces of nature. But it's not the case in Nigeria. So they always prefer every year there's a budget for IDP, and with the new that has come into place some years ago, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. I'm sure all the states are quick to replicate that because it gives an opportunity to call some boys to come and eat. We run a come and chop system, and that seems to give them more leeway than creating, like he said, a dam that collects this water. And like I noted earlier, a collection of this water could serve for economic purpose later on. It could be used for irrigation when the waters are no longer there, as is always the case in northern Nigeria. But we have a set of people who don't think. We have a system problem. That is just the word for it. And until we solve that issue, we will keep seeing this.
Is it really about a set of people who do not think? I mean, let's look at it. Different administrations. Does it mean we have never had someone who has come in to really have the people in mind? Or is there another problem that we're not pointing at?
It's still the same kind of people that have been coming in. You see, the thing about changing government is not just about changing the persons. Is these same people, they have the same fraternal spirit, as it were. They are the same people who has never really meant well, or who has never been able to think out of the box. Until we have a system that encourages those who think of how to solve this problem coming into power, and not people who assume power because it is the turn of my region. And that region could be at the state, even at the local government level, begin to say, oh, this ward has produced the chairman, our ward has not produced, oh, our local government is divided. So until we change that system to start asking people, what are you bringing to the table, as it were.
So our system doesn't allow for good leaders to come in, that's what you're saying?
The point here is that we've not gotten a system that is so devoted to public interest.
Absolutely.
We've not. All we are seeing is politicians who come into power for their own interests or their group interests. If we have a government or administration that is public-oriented, most of these disasters or floodings will be taken care of. Let's imagine those civilized or advanced countries. Over time, we hear there are floodings, like in the US. Yes, there are floodings. And the kind of intense climate conditions they have, or the weather conditions they have, they are very, very furious. If Nigeria should have it, I think everybody would die. Imagine when the hurricane and all of those tornadoes and all that. But in America and these European countries, they're able to manage the situation. After even the flood, once it comes, within some hours or days, you see the whole water will be channeled. They go back. But over here in this country, When one such happens, just like what happened a few years back, both NIHSA and so many other countries were all submerged because of the Cameroon water. And over time, past governments have ignored the warning that dams should be erected. They ignored it. I wonder the last experience, I was thinking that maybe the incoming administration will have to take a drastic step in building this infrastructure for the good of the people. But it's ignored. Nobody. It is only when the warnings or the signals are coming that you see the government keep raising alarm, shouting. For what? It doesn't make any sense.